What's up, guys? It's Brandon Flash. Today you're joining me with a 2023 Tesla Model S long-range all-wheel drive, or just all-wheel drive as Tesla calls it these days. And we're going to be doing a 70 mile per hour range test. So as I mentioned, we have a 2023 Tesla Model S all-wheel drive. We have the 21-inch staggered wheels. So these are the optional upgraded wheels. We have 265, 35, 21 in the front, and we have 295, 30, 21 in the rear. So some big honking tires on there, nice and chunky in the rear. 265 is fairly normal, but still a wide tire. This is a later Model S. It has the new taillights, as you can see there, with the new charge port. This is actually a loaner while my Model S is in for service, but we're going to be doing a range test on it to see how far it goes. This is a 2023. It's a 12 of 22 build, so December 22 build. And it actually has about 8,000 miles on it. So it does have some calendar degradation. However, it does not have a whole lot of mileage degradation. So seems to overall be in pretty good shape. Not sure the entire story on this car, so take it all with a little bit of a grain of salt because this car could have a interesting past, but it's a data point nonetheless. Let's show you in here. As far as I can tell, this car was originally rated for 375 miles of rated range when it was sold as a 2023 model. Here you can see what it looks like. So it just shows Model S. We're on software 2024.3.25, so that just added auto park with vision because this actually has ultrasonics. It's, I think, one of the few Model S's that has the updated lights, but also has ultrasonics. That seems to be not that common of a combination. I set the tire pressures this morning to 40 PSI, which is the manufacturer recommended when cold. We're also going to reset a trip, so we'll reset trip A. And then we're going to be doing a loop style test. So I've set up a route in the nav here as best as I can, just based on some guesses. So we're going to be going all the way down from Fort Mill, so just outside Charlotte Metro, down to basically Columbia. We're going to go back, and then we're going to do a loop around the 485 loop. So that way we can keep moving basically the entire time at 70 miles per hour. We're going to go all the way around Charlotte. Traffic's usually pretty minimal, and then we'll go back down 77 again as far as we need to then be able to come back to the charger at 0%. We're not going to be using nav to precondition, so that's why I actually have Frugal McDougal Beverage Warehouse in here instead of the supercharger, because that is basically across the street right there, as you can see right there. So that way we get nav estimate back to our destination without having it preconditioned. So this should be a pretty good test. Right now we're top balancing. It seems like this car has maybe not been charged to 100% in a little while. We're getting 9 kilowatts at 96%, which is pretty bad, but also a bit expected if it doesn't truly know where the top of the battery is. And then we'll leave when it hits 100%. I'm switching it to show distance, so you can see at 96%, it's currently showing 347 miles of rated range, but we'll see how that changes as it keeps top balancing. And we're on a version 3 supercharger. I'll also be having a 0 to 100% supercharging test coming. So definitely, if you haven't, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, so that way you know when that next video is coming and I'll be doing that charging test. I'm also aiming to do a 10% challenge. A little bit hard to coordinate when it's a loaner car and I don't know exactly how long I'll have it. But I'm gonna try and do as many tests as I can to give you guys data points. Even though this isn't a brand new car, I figured some people are in the market for used cars. These have gotten really cheap on the used market. You can get a refresh used Model S for 50, 60K range, which seems to be a really good deal in my opinion. I suspect this will actually go probably about 300 miles, maybe even more, we'll see. These 21-inch wheels are definitely not the range spec and probably not what I would buy. I think they look really nice, but I would definitely get some 19s. I think the 19s with the covers pulled off actually look really good, personally. And then as far as test conditions, so right now I have it set to 65, but once we get going, I'm going to set it to 68. We'll keep the fan on low. We'll have the suspension set to low and comfort. And then we'll also have it on chill mode. Not that it makes a huge difference. I'm going to be using just enhanced autopilot, so that way it's not moving around as actively as it would on full self-driving supervised. But otherwise, we basically just hop in, we drive at 70 miles per hour almost until it stops. I'm not going to be going until it stops. I don't want a tow truck, but we'll push it fairly far and give you guys the result. And as far as weather goes, it's about 80 degrees, high 70s, probably getting into the low 80s as we go through this test. Looks like about 4-mile-per-hour winds, so I'd say weather is not a huge factor. We have slightly overcast skies, so not a ton of thermal sun load. So I think these should be pretty good conditions for testing, and I'm really looking forward to hopefully a pretty large number from this Model S. Well, we've just completed charging. It actually stopped at 98%, even though the charge limit is set to 100%. But it was over an hour and 10 minutes to go from 80 to 100%, or 98% is where it stopped. Let's just see what we're seeing for miles. So it looks like 352 miles at 98%, which is not great. 81 kilowatt hour added. That's from 10 to 98%. So I've got climate off. We're going to unplug, and then we're going to get on the road and do the 70 mile per hour range test. This is going to be a long one. Went and used the restroom, so we're good for a while. Let me put on my seatbelt, and then we'll get on the road. And just to show you guys auto shift, so foot on the brake, and then it's already in drive. And now it's counting all energy used, so we're going to reset this trip again just for sake. And let's get to it. We'll turn climate on now. We'll set that to 68. And we're going to head south, and then we'll head north, around, back down, back up. We'll adjust this as needed, but the end goal will be to do as much of a loop as possible and then end up at the same spot. There are a few other superchargers around if needed as bailouts, but hopefully not. And then these are just waypoints, so as we get to them, I'll remove them, so we're not actually going to stop at any of these points. Let's get on the road, and I'll give you guys an update at 75%. And then we are going to be setting it at 71 miles per hour indicated rather than 70, because I GPS verify it with these wheels, this vehicle. And I would just like to point out, I think the yoke is unbelievably stupid on this car, so just sharing my opinion there. The yoke itself is not the worst thing, but these touch buttons for turn signals, they're just really annoying to use, because normally you'd want to keep your hand like this, but it's annoying to reach the wheels like this and you're loosening your grip. If you keep your hand down here, then it's less comfortable because your finger's not here, but easier reach. It's just a really terrible design. Well, about 70 miles in, we're at 78%, so we've used about 20% of the battery, and we're flipping around. So we're almost in Columbia, South Carolina, and we're heading north. So far, this run is super clean, really able to maintain speed, so we're just going to go through this light. We're going to flip back around and then get right back up to 71 mile per hour indicated. And just to show you guys, we have some really excellent efficiency, 259 watt hour per mile. That is Model 3 or Model Y level efficiency in a Model S. So really, really happy with that. And full self-driving, I actually left it on, and it's actually working better than I would expect it to. Well, we just crossed to 75% state of charge. We've driven 75 miles so far, so that puts us about 300 miles of driving range. However, since we didn't start at 100%, we started at 98% since that's where the charge completed. We are actually on track to do a little bit over 300 miles to 0%. So we'll see how this goes. I'll give you guys another update at 50%, but right now we are headed north, and time to do the loop around Charlotte pretty soon. So the 485 loop around Charlotte is about 67 miles, and I've never driven the entire thing straight through, so it should be a little interesting. Looks like traffic isn't too bad. The traffic showing there was once we were off the exit. Looks like maybe just a little bit of traffic transitioning from 77 onto 485, but that should be pretty manageable. We're at 67% and we've crossed 100 miles driven. So again, on track for right about 300 or more miles on this 100% to 0% test. And we started at 98% because that's where the vehicle stopped charging. Change of plans. We're not doing the Charlotte loop. There's quite a bit of traffic that was building up, so we're going to be doing turn around near Charlotte, near the 485 loop, and then head back south to Columbia. We'll see how far we go down and back and such. I did put it into park and do a drive rail reset with the charge port because I got into autopilot jail. So 139 miles, but that's why we use a trip here instead of just using the current drive. But 140 miles driven so far, and we're at 56%, so really quite good. Well, we're now at 50%, or just crossed to 49%. Didn't catch it quite in time, but 162 miles, and overall, not bad. So it looks like we're on track for about 320 miles, which is really an excellent result. Well, we've just crossed 201 miles. We're at 38%, so definitely plugging along the miles here. We're getting close to a turnaround point in 10 miles. We just crossed to 24%, didn't catch 25, and we've driven 249 miles, so quite a bit of mileage covered so far. We've just crossed to 10%, which I think is a pretty real world kind of percentage that people will end their trip at, or at least go charge. And we have driven 297 miles. So from 100% or 98% in this case, you can drive 297 miles and get down to 10% at 70 miles per hour. So that's pretty remarkable. Yeah, I mean, that's longer than I would realistically want to drive without stopping anyway. We're pulling off for what should be the last turnaround of this trip. 309 miles, 7% remaining, and it's projecting arrival of 0.6% back to the supercharger station. So looking good. Here's rated, so we've used 90.5% of the battery capacity. We're at 7%, so it makes sense since we started at 98%. And look how ridiculous this wheel looks. It's a spinning rectangle. This yoke is just silly on FSD. And just shows how much motion you need to move the wheel just for even a 90-degree turn. Anyway, we're about to get back onto the interstate, and then I'll see you guys at the charging station at 0%, and then we'll wrap up this range test. We just crossed down to 5%, which is where you might run it down to if you're a little bit more on the adventure side, and if there's a charger along your route to allow it. And that would give you 315 miles of driving range at 70 miles per hour. Again, very solid. We've used 82 kilowatt hours so far. 5%, and we have 20 miles to go. So it looks like we're on track for about 335 miles with an arrival of 0.3%. And again, we're not navigating to the supercharger, so it's not preconditioning. So in the real world, you might actually have a little bit higher use because battery conditioning would use some energy. However, it is 83 degrees outside, so battery conditioning may not play a huge role, but definitely would play a role in the cold. So we're at 0%. I have slowed down a little bit. It's showing a negative 0.1% arrival, but we've driven 334 miles. We are 1.8 miles away, so I definitely don't want to run out, but I think still pretty indicative. I'm still going 66, and yeah, we'll be arriving to the supercharger shortly at negative 0.1%, so I think we'll be fine, hopefully. Famous last words. Taking the last exit here at 0%. We're going to be turning to get to Carowinds. We've used 97.9% of the battery, basically all of it, and then we have 0.7 miles to go to get to the charger, so hopefully we make it. You can barely see that we do have a little bit of power cut there. You can see the dots there, but still quite a bit of power remaining. So we made it, 97.9% of the battery used. We drove, let's see, navigation, 335 miles. This shows 335.3, and we're at 0%. So we did the thing, and we got very close to rated efficiency, or rated range actually. I'd say this was showing about 352 when charge completed, and we got to 335. So I'm going to call that a very good result. And we just plugged in at 0%. Let's see how much current we get, if it ramps up right away or not. Battery is actually pretty warm, given that it didn't precondition. Again, 0%. So it looks like it is going to take a minute to ramp up, actually. So I must say, overall, pretty happy with that result. Got 95% of the displayed rated range, being that this battery is a bit degraded, so that's to be expected. Pretty solid range. I mean, that's longer than most people will need. However, I do think even that's maybe not enough range. I know 335 miles sounds like a lot, but that's at 70 mile per hour constant, basically going as perfectly as possible. Whereas in the real world, I would say that equates to like a 250 mile real road trip range. You're generally not going down to 0%. You're probably not going exactly 70 miles per hour. You're probably not doing a loop style trip where wind and elevation and things kind of cancel each other out. You might be going with the flow of traffic that might be 75 or 80. You might be going uphill. You're probably not going to 0%. You probably want to roll in with a reasonable amount of range. You might want to make a detour. You might want to get lunch not at a charging station. So I think there are a lot of things that having more range enables. And I think we really need to get to probably closer to a 400 mile, 70 mile per hour range, because that will then translate into a usable 80 mile per hour range, a usable 20 degrees outside range. And I think there are a lot more factors than just what it can get at 70 miles per hour in perfect conditions that a lot of people kind of miss, especially the EV fanboys, myself included to some extent. Normal people don't want to just hop from charger to charger on a road trip. They want to be able to have the car work for them rather than them work for the car and adapt to exactly what the car needs. The car should adapt to what the person needs, because at the end of the day, a car is working for you. A car is a means for transportation and to take you where you want to go. Anyway, enough of my rant about range. Would love to hear what you guys think. Comment down below. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next one.